Hi, welcome back to the channel. You met Tiffany from Stitching Addiction a few months ago, and last week I had mentioned in the Create With video with Dixie DIY that we were all going to be joining forces for the costume symposium, and we're going to be having an 1840s tea party. And so Dixie DIY, Megan from Cluster Frog, Tiffany, and myself are going to be coming together wearing 1840s attire and enjoying an 1840s tea party. So we all started talking about what we were going to wear. And both Dixie and Megan already had dresses that they plan to wear to the event, but Tiffany and I didn't have anything. And as it so happens, we both selected an Angela Clayton costume pattern from McCalls, and I will share some extant inspiration probably right out here. We'll put a picture in. And as it happens, you too had selected this video. Had you been planning to make this dress?
Yes, I had actually picked it a long time ago, and I thought it would be a fun summer dress to make, and I thought it would be easy because it already had a pattern. I usually draft my patterns. When I went to adjust it yesterday, I figured out it wasn't as easy as I thought.
So we are going to both be making this dress, but we really think that they're going to look vastly different.
Yes.
And one thing that you're going to be focusing on is how to achieve a really good fitting bodice. Because the 1840s, while they did have more of the bell or fuller shaped skirts, the bodices were very fitted.
Yes.
And so as you can see, Tiffany and I both have different body types. Tiffany is tall, I'm a little bit shorter, and I am a bit pear-shaped. I usually try to camouflage that by what I'm wearing, but I definitely, when you're doing my measurements, it comes across that I'm very pear-shaped. So to achieve the fit is something that Tiffany is going to focus on her videos.
Right.
And I am going to be the lucky recipient who gets to model for her. I'm really excited because I really am self-taught and I don't have a lot of experience with fit. So I'm hoping to learn a lot from watching your video and going through this process with you. Now for my dress, I have selected this 100% cotton fabric, and it is sort of a green with purple and white. And this design was very similar to other designs that were available in the 1840s. And the pattern talks about a few things that you're going to need, and that is single fold bias tape. And one thing that I would encourage you to do to keep costs down is to try to find things secondhand at thrift shops and estate sales. That's often where I get my bias tape. And in ye olden days, it used to be 100% cotton. The bias tape that they make today is a polyester blend. And I prefer, just in terms of historical accuracy, but the way that the fabric behaves. Tiffany, you cut all of your bias yourself, so I would love to see that, if you, in your video, maybe would show people how to do that. Yeah. And then it also states that it needs boning with casing, and that's really how you get the well-fitted bodice. And again, this was something that I had found at an estate sale, so I'm going to try this. I've also done zip ties before. Have you ever?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so that's...
The Joe dress actually has zip ties in
Really?
it.
Okay, I love that. And then the last thing it says that you'll need is the 1/8 inch filler cord. And I was a little bit stumped on that. And Tiffany had said, well, you know, the sugar and cream cotton yarn works really well for the filler cords. So we're gonna get started on each of our videos, and I think you're gonna really enjoy this dual project, and I'm excited to see how each of our dresses turn out. I'm gonna alter my sleeves a little bit, so wish me luck on that. Let's get started. So one thing that I'm gonna talk about right now, you may not be aware that pattern sizing is different from clothing sizing.
Yes.
So where I often wear a size 6 in traditional clothing, in sewing garments for myself, it's usually around a size 12 I found works the best for me. For this particular pattern, because I have such narrow shoulders, we're going to be using an 8 for the top, and again, to accommodate my pear shape, we're going to be using a 14 on the bottom. And then I'll cut my pattern out from mock-up fabric, which will probably be an old sheet, and try it on to see how that's working. So don't be surprised, it's not a big deal if you are maybe an 8 in traditional clothing, but perhaps wear a 14 in pattern sizing. The important thing is to get a garment that fits you the best. So Tiffany had taken my measurements while I was wearing my undergarments, my period appropriate undergarments. And now she has adjusted the pattern pieces, and she will go more into how she made these adjustments in her video. But in order to preserve the pattern, we copy the pattern onto tracing paper. So then that way, if the first mock-up doesn't work out in the way of proper sizing, we can go back and reuse the original pattern piece again. With the help of Stitching Addiction, I now have my third and final mock-up pieces cut, as well as all of my pattern pieces. I'm using most of the pieces found in this McCall's pattern, and then just the sleeve lining pieces of this Butterick pattern. So now I'm gonna cut my bias strips and sew all the piping / cording. Good times. This fabric has a directional design, which means the print goes in only one direction, and straight out of the gate I was sewing up French seams on the skirt, and they're the wrong way. Some people wouldn't mind that. Hello, seam ripper. For me, it was worth the 5 minutes it took to pick out the stitch and re-sew the seam, because now from a distance you will see only pretty close pattern matching. And the back of the seam is now all neatly enclosed. For the main body of the sleeve, I am using the Butterick pattern, and now I'm trying to come up with some sort of embellishment. This is the upper sleeve from the McCall's pattern. You often see in portraiture and photography that there is an upper portion of the sleeve. So I am going to Frankenstein the two together, starting out with muslin to see if this will work. It's kind of hard to see the white on white, but I have taken the upper portion of the two sleeve pieces, which I've joined, and now I'm trying to get the bottom edge, and so I've come down 4 inches on either side, and I'm just going to cut it along this line, and then I'll sew up the inseams and fit it over the sleeve. Okay, so you can see the piece that I've cut out against the green a little bit better. It kind of looks like a little whale, so I'm gonna sew it up and see how it fits over my mock-up sleeve piece. I love it when the method to my madness works. So this is the sleeve. I'm planning on doing a ruffle under here, so I do want it, I think, a little bit looser, so I'll cut it a bit bigger. You can see where it attaches to the front of the bodice and then the back, and I'll let you see the underside of it. So it's gonna work. Woohoo! I am working with scraps at this point, but I did want to point out I did pay attention to the grain line of the original pattern piece, and I transferred that over. And so I'm going to cut out my second piece. I did pay attention that the design is following in the same direction as the sleeve and the dress itself. I finally settled on a sleeve design that I liked for the upper cap of the sleeve. The shirring detail mimics what was done on the bodice, and so to create that, this is a strip of fabric that has gathering on either side, and then I'll sew it right down the center. And to finish off the upper edge of the sleeve, I just added a bias trim because I didn't want a lot of bulk. So now I'm going to attach it. Pinned it on the bodice. I'll take it off the sleeve so you can, oop. So this is the moment of truth. This is our first mock-up based on how Tiffany has altered the pattern pieces. She is pinning me into the dress. It has a hook and eye closure.